Thank you so much for joining us for this online wayfinding session, Navigating the Virtual Landscape Together. I'm Nicole Bryant Lescher. I'm English faculty at College of the Redwoods and also a coordinator with 3CSN. And we're going to spend some time together today looking at how to, different ways in which you can do feedback via Canvas's tools in order to give feedback to students in the various ways in which you might be working with them when you're using Canvas to interface. So this session on giving online feedback is part of a broader umbrella of 3CSN's online wayfinding series, and all of those sessions are connected by the same three guiding objectives. Right? The first of those is that we're hoping that this session is an opportunity to create a sense of community in online environments in order to support student engagement and retention. Right? In other words, even though we're far apart from one another right now, we're hoping that these sessions give you an opportunity to feel that you're in community with other learners and practitioners across the state. We're all practitioners as well, right? So in community with us and in community with one another, so that ultimately you have the gas in the tank or the feeling of being capable, right, of coming alongside and supporting your students in this time of change. In addition to that, we're hoping that these sessions give you an opportunity to learn together in order to support your professional identity development, especially that portion of your professional identity development that might be connected to working in an online environment, and to provide all of you, our 3CSN network, with opportunities to dialogue, share, build and strengthen knowledge together, and engage in that productive struggle within community. So if you're thinking of that productive struggle as feeling a little like a buzzword, perhaps a way to think about it is that struggle is moments where we don't feel like we have what we need, right? We either don't have the knowledge, we don't have the time, or we don't have the capacity or the resources to do what needs to be done in a certain situation. And in those moments when we're feeling like we're struggling, it's really easy to be tempted to step out, right? And we see the same move modeled by our students sometimes, where they don't feel like they have what they need in a moment in a class or in a situation where they're trying to navigate something on our campuses. And so they feel that struggle and they say, oh, not for me, I can't do it, right? I can't, it's too much, I can't. And 3CSN says that's a really natural reaction, but another way to come alongside and support is if we think about that not all struggle is struggle that makes us step out. In fact, in some situations, that struggle can actually lead to greater knowledge, greater understanding, and therefore be productive. And the difference is often, do we have at our disposal a network to come alongside and support us? And do we have an opportunity to learn in community to help us to feel supported, to go over those humps at the vanguard of our skills and move us to a place where we can feel successful? And this idea that learning in community is a key concept for being able to successfully productive struggle is part of our theory of change. And 3CSN says that if we provide training on networking and we use action research methodologies, community college professionals can and do transform their environments and their identities to create communities of practice that are going to produce that powerful learning, and that they can work across campuses, right? Which feels so real right now when we're all working from different places, but coming together to connect, to support one another, and ultimately to support our students to lead to greater student success. So through our work together, we can move from, I feel like I'm struggling, I'm going to step out, to this is hard and I feel like I'm having to learn as I go, but I have this network to support me. I have this learning to help me, kind of scaffold and step by step. And that's going to allow me to struggle, but productively arrive at new learning, new understandings that I can ultimately benefit from, and that certainly are going to benefit my students. This particular session is going to focus on creating feedback tools, feedback through online tools in Canvas. And so we're going to be learning and practicing using Canvas tools to create instructor feedback. And I'll also show you some ways in which you could create opportunities for students to give one another feedback. So as we get into this and we're thinking about building knowledge, what I want to say to you is that Canvas has several tools that can assist instructors with giving feedback, right? So there's a lot of different ways in which you can give feedback to your students via Canvas. A couple quick reminders to help ground yourself in making some good decisions about which tools to integrate now, maybe what to think about later, is that although our students are often in our face-to-face classes or in our face-to-face spaces, toggling back and forth between different digital devices, and they seem really savvy with those devices. They have a lot of acronyms. They know how to do stuff that we might not even know how to do with digital devices. That knowledge and literacy connected to those devices does not translate into increased knowledge or increased speed of literacy in an online learning management system like Canvas. So in other words, just because they know how to use that handheld device really well, a phone or something else, doesn't mean that when they get into your online course, they can hit the ground running and be soaring in moments, right? They actually really struggle to gather the digital literacy necessary within an online learning environment. And so they're often more nervous than we are with these changes. They also have varied levels of skill and varied levels of access. So knowing that, I would encourage you to keep in mind that simple is good and clear is really important right now, right? The more simple we can keep it, the clearer we can keep it, the better that works for them. And ultimately that means the better it works for us. So in that space of being simple and clear, I want to make sure we do a bit of level setting before I get in and model so that the language we're using and the moves that we're making make sense, right? So that you can bridge from your outside of Canvas knowledge to your inside Canvas knowledge. So first and foremost, I'm going to tell you that Canvas allows you to create several types of graded situations. And my language is really specific there, right? Because what Canvas calls a graded situation inside Canvas may be different from what you refer to it as, right? So the types of graded situations that you can make within Canvas are discussions, quizzes, and a third type of assignment where students are demonstrating their knowledge either through uploading a file of some sort or typing in a text box. This third particular type of graded situation where students are either uploading a file or typing into a text box, Canvas calls that particular situation an assignment. So if in your day-to-day language, in your office, or when talking with colleagues, you say, I have a variety of different assignments in my class, recognize that your use of that word and Canvas's use of that word are very different here, and that matters, right? When Canvas uses the word assignment, it means a specific type of graded activity. It does not call a discussion an assignment, even if you do in your planning. And knowing this is important, and you'll see why in a moment. Again, those specific types of assignments that Canvas calls an assignment, those specific types of graded activities that Canvas calls an assignment, Canvas means it's a container for student work, right? Specifically, it's either a text box where students type, to respond to a question of some sort, or it is a designated place, a box where students upload something, and they could upload, an essay, they could upload a completed handout. You send them a digital handout and you say, please, fill this out and upload it to the Dropbox. It could also be something that's a combination of visual and digital, right? And so it could be like a photo from their cell phone or a scan where they use their cell phone to take a photo and then through a free app convert it to a PDF, right? There's a variety of different apps that do that. If you look around a little bit through the internet, you can see, depending on your phone type, Samsung or an Apple or, whatever type of phone you might have, that there's free app software that you and your students can get that you take a photo and then you can convert that photo to a PDF. And that makes it much easier to upload and also easier for you to read, right? The resolution is better. But this is a great opportunity or option for instructors who have assignments in their courses where they would typically look at student handwriting, doing something, right? Show me your work on something. I'm walking around in class, I'm looking at that. That's harder to capture in a digital environment, right? Asking students to show their thinking, working through, for example, a math problem may seem really awkward to ask students to do that via typed means. So this makes another space, a third opportunity, where students could continue to do that work handwritten. They could take a photo, convert it to a scan, upload it, and then you can see their work in their handwriting. They can show you their work via their handwriting, but you're using that digital means to create the transaction. So these are all different types of ways in which students can demonstrate their learning through either adding content in a text box or uploading content in some way. Canvas calls this situation an assignment. Okay? A discussion forum in Canvas is a place where you, as the designer, put some sort of spark, some sort of catalyst to get students thinking. You either type a prompt question, or you invite them to watch a video, or you put a handout up, or upload a reading, something, and you say, students, post back to this, you know, whatever, get your thinking going. This question, this article, this image, whatever it is, post back to that, and then respond to each other, right? So a discussion forum creates these moments where students are engaging with the activity that you've set forth for them, and they're also talking to each other through asynchronous digital means, right? Where they can log on whenever and continue the conversation, and those replies get threaded. And it's a great way to create a sense of dialogue and replicate that group moment that you might have had in your face-to-face classes. Quizzes are a place where students can demonstrate their knowledge in response to specific questions that you have generated for them. And those can be set up to either auto grade, where you know, you've built true and false questions or multiple choice questions or fill in the blank questions. I have a face about the fill in the blank questions. They're a lot of work and they have to be really specific and maybe not fill in the blank, but it's an option, right? But quizzes can be set up to auto grade, where you build it and then students come and they complete that quiz and it gets auto scored. Or you can set them up to be essay questions or short answer questions, where there's a question and then they have a text box to fill out, and then you're going to go in and grade those individually. All of these graded activities, quizzes, discussion forums, and assignments, have the option for multiple different types of feedback on Canvas. So that's great news, right? You can build a variety of different types of graded activities, and there's a variety of ways you can give feedback. So where do you go to see your students' completed work? So if you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to go give feedback, I had an activity that my students have done, it's now time for me to go score that activity and give them feedback. How do I get to it? So the answer to that is that you go to the grade book. So what you can see peeking out over here behind our PowerPoint, right, is a sneak peek at my Canvas class. And just like your Canvas class, on the left, you're going to see all these blue link tabs. Canvas calls them navigation tabs. And if I want to go and see, okay, who submitted their graded activity, and I'm going to go start putting in grades and putting in feedback, the destination that I go to in order to do that is called grades, right? And so that's where I go to access my grade book. Once I'm in my grade book, I actually have to go down an additional hallway, and I'm going to show that to you in just a moment. So if you think about going into grades as in going down the first hallway, once I'm in the grades hallway, I actually have to turn a slight corner and go even farther down the hallway into something called Speed Grader. And this is the design space where I can give a variety of different types of feedback to my students' assignments, right? Or their discussion forums or their quizzes. So I'm going to go to Gradebook, and then once I'm in Gradebook, I'm going to choose to get into Speed Grader, right? And then if you're thinking, okay, well, that's great. Well, how do I comment? You have a variety of ways in which you can comment or give feedback. So we're going to walk them through, right? So we're going to go to Gradebook so that you can see that. Here's the moves I'm going to make. This is what's called a Canvas Sandbox course. Some of you will have access to a sandbox, some of you might not. It's a local decision on whether or not individual faculty have a sandbox. What a sandbox is it's just a design space or prototyping space. So it's beneficial for us because you can see what I'm doing. I can make lots of moves to show you things, but I'm not actually altering the situation of my live students at all right now because there's no real students in this class, right? It's kind of like a baking show. I put some casseroles in, we're gonna go look at those together, but they're not happening in the real world, right? They're just happening in the safety of this prototype space. So if there's anything that looks different here from what you'll see in your classes, I'll make sure to let you know. We're going to notice one of those differences in about 5 seconds. So again, if I want to go see what my students have submitted, I'm going to go to this navigation tab called Grades. Here's the first time something's going to look different. Because this isn't a real class, I have no real students in here, which is great because you wouldn't want to see their confidential information. So this works well for our purposes. But what is slightly limiting is that I only have one test student, right? I only have one fake student that I can make moves with to practice in here. The good news for you is that you don't have to have a Canvas sandbox to have a fake student to practice with. Every Canvas class has a student called test student. And a little later in this video, I can show you how to get into your test student mode so that you can make moves as a fake student in your class and see how your class looks from the student perspective. This can be really, really valuable while you're designing to help you walk through, like, is this going to work the way I think it's going to work? How might this look to a student's perspective? How do I explain what I want them to do? So it's really invaluable to have that option. Sadly for you, when we get to our gradebook, it looks like I only have one student in my class, which is going to make it very hard for them to have a rich discussion in a discussion forum. But let's just fake it and pretend, nevertheless, right? So here we are in the gradebook. If you're looking at your actual gradebook in your actual class, every one of your students' names is going to come down here on the left underneath that first student name. There'll be all the students. It just goes down in that first column to the left under student name. And then crawling to the right are all the different assignments that you have created for this class. And so each and every one of those will just come stretching over here to the right as far as they go until you get over to either one or more categories you've created in your gradebook that are the totals, and it will show you the total grade for each and every one of your students. So that is how this situation works. When I come into my gradebook, if my students have completed a graded activity that I set out for them, I will know that because there'll be an icon in the box underneath that particular graded activity showing me something has been submitted there or something has been completed, right? If the student has not completed an assignment, I will see a dash where that icon should be. So in this case, let's go ahead and look in on, let's go look at, how about, we'll go to this one back here with the icon, this Unit 2 discussion on weather, okay? Here I see that the student has submitted something, but I've not yet graded it because there's not a score in there. If I've already graded it, I'll know because it'll have a number that's in that spot showing me what it's currently scored at. But if there's an icon that says, oh, this is work I need to do as a professor. So here I go, I'm gonna click on the icon itself, and then that's going to give me different options here, right? And depending upon how I've set up that assignment, I can give points, I can give percentages. It looks like this assignment was set up to either be completed or uncompleted. So although we could look at that one, I'm actually going to change my mind and bring you to one that's got points. So let's come back here to this peer review out of 40. And so again, if I want to engage with an assignment that has been uploaded but I've not yet graded, I'm going to click on it. And then to the right, there's this little tiny blue arrow, right? I could put in a score here, but I haven't seen the assignment yet. So under normal circumstances, the option to have a score without looking at the assignment is not going to really work for me. I'm going to want to see that assignment. So right now we're in gradebook, right? Go back to our memory of where we go. We're in the hallway called gradebook. In order to go deeper into the hallway and get to that speed grader, I need to choose this blue arrow to the right, which is going to open up this panel on the right-hand side that tells me a little bit more information, right? It tells me that this is the name of my student, this is the name of the assignment. I could put in a score here, but again, I haven't seen the assignment yet. But I also see this icon with a check and this word that says speed grader. This is my pass key to get into that further hallway where I can actually go in, see the assignment, grade it, and give feedback in a number of different ways. So that's where we're going to go next. So again, you come into your gradebook by choosing on grades in that navigation tab to the left. Once you're in grades, you're going to find the graded activity that has an icon showing you it's been submitted by the student, but you have not yet taken action on that as a professor to give feedback or a score. You're going to click on that icon. When you click on it, you'll get a blue arrow on the right. You click on that blue arrow and it opens up this right-hand tab. And then finally, you're at the place where you can go down that long hallway into SpeedGrader by choosing that SpeedGrader link. And then magically, ta-da, you have so much more information. On this one page, you are able to see what the students have posted, right? So in this case, it's a discussion forum. So you can see, according to that particular student, right? Imagine that the student's name is Bob, right? Instead of test student. I'm able to see every time that Bob has posted within this particular graded activity, in this particular discussion forum. I can see when Bob initially posted. I can see every response Bob has made to Bob's class colleagues, right? All of that is visible in one spot for me when I go to give feedback, which is really helpful if I'm grading a discussion. So over here on the left, I see all the activity that Bob has taken, right? Whatever Bob has said. And over here on the right is where I can start to give feedback. So at a really basic level, I could just give a score, right? I know how much I built this assignment out of. So maybe I look at Bob's feedback and I say, okay, well, this is worth 25 out of 40. Okay. And then a little bit farther down is where I can start to have several choices about how I want to give Bob feedback. So I could give Bob overall comments on this, right? I could type right into this comment box and give Bob some feedback. Saying, you know, here's what's working really well in this. This is what helped move you to 25 out of 40 points. Here's places to strengthen with the next discussion we have. If you want to get full credit the next time, here's the moves that you need to make to strengthen, right? I could put all of that in here, choose submit, and then it's going to show up as assignment comments right there for Bob. So then when Bob logs into Canvas next, what Bob is going to see is a notification that says you earned 25 out of 40 on this assignment, and Bob is going to see those comments right away, okay? Easily accessible for Bob. If I didn't want to write in this comment box, or I wanted more options than just this comment box, there are other ways I can give feedback to Bob. First, I could choose to upload an attachment to Bob. As an English professor, I do this all the time, where I give students tailored feedback, but then I've already built a handout in advance that details what I consider to be the most common places that students struggle with a particular paper or with a particular assignment. So I'll give them some tailored feedback, and then I will upload this sheet that says, for more details on how to strengthen, you know, these things that I identified in your paper, here are some moves that you can make when you revise this paper, or here are some moves that you can make the next assignment that we do that will really help you with these areas of focus. And so I can upload that, and then my student gets the tailored feedback, but they also immediately get connected with some resources to help them to revise or strengthen for the next time. And my personal feeling as an instructor is that, especially in a remote environment where I'm not physically in class with my students, The most important move I make when I give feedback is the move that gets them to keep trying, right? More important than making a decision about, what are the top things I want to say to my student about this essay, or, what things are going to make sure that they meet the course objectives or whatever. All of those to me are secondary. First and most important is the way in which I give feedback to them. Does that have a high likelihood that they're going to receive that feedback and say, okay, I'm going to try again. I'm going to keep going, right? I know what I need to know now to strengthen and get better, whatever that is. Because to me, there's no more important element to giving feedback than that feedback opens a door for the student to persist, right? If my feedback invites that student or suggests to that student that it's not possible for them to be successful, then the feedback isn't particularly useful overall, right? It's much more powerful for me to create a situation that first and foremost says, here's how to keep strengthening in order to kind of give them more gas in their tank to persist. And so I find that for me personally, a variety of ways of giving feedback increases the likelihood that they're going to persist. One way to do that, obviously, is to give them those tailored comments. But then if I've done that work to create a handout, or I've got a handout with resources on it, right? Maybe I've got some, top tutoring resources or some other things to think about, and I link that to them through this upload piece, then, all at one time, I'm giving them feedback on what they did, and I'm giving them resources to help them continue. Okay? So that's what that paperclip icon does, is I can attach any kind of file that I might want to help support their continued work. The middle button allows me to give audio feedback, and this is an option I use quite often. What I will do is I will send an email out to the class before a couple days before I start giving feedback on an activity and say, I'm planning to use audio comments as an option for giving you feedback on this activity. If you would prefer to have written comments, please email me, let me know. I'm happy to do that for you, right? And that way I'm giving students the option, but actually most students really, really enjoy the ability to have audio feedback. I think that they enjoy it for a couple reasons. Again, we're remote. They're not in class with me. They don't hear my voice as much, even though I have lecture videos in my classes. And so the opportunity to hear me speaking about their work and to hear the quality of my voice connects us in a way that just isn't replicated with written feedback. Right? The other thing is, I think in two particularly critical situations, like when I see a student do something really amazing and when I see a student really struggling, the quality of my voice when I give them feedback can also, again, be that place where I give them the boost to either continue to knock it out of the park or try really hard if they're being successful, and to be proud of what they've done, or to feel supported as they continue to try. And, I've had students every semester will email me and say, I was really nervous about getting feedback on this assignment. I knew that I struggled with it. I was worried that it was going to go really bad. And even though I got, an imperfect score, even though I got a C or whatever, thank you for telling me in audio comments what I needed to do. I understand it better now, and I'm ready to go do it again. And I think it's because they hear my voice giving them constructive criticism, right? This isn't working, or here's something that you need to do differently. But they're hearing my voice say that with kindness, and they're hearing my voice say that in a way that helps them to know that I believe they can do it. And that comes through in my voice much more clearly and authentically than it comes through in my writing. No matter how much I care and try and express that in words written, something about hearing it does make a big difference. And so should it fit the parameters of your class and of your students, I can't encourage strongly enough how valuable making audio comments can be. So with that, let me show you how to do it. you click on this center button that kind of looks like a parallelogram with a triangle in the middle. And if you have a webcam integrated in your computer or hooked up to your computer, and you're not currently making a Zoom video on how to do this so that your webcam is used for something else, you'll see your image come up right in the middle here of this box that says record media, which is the pop-up that happens when you click on that center feedback tool. You would typically see your image right here. You don't see that with me right now because I'm using my webcam for something else, but let's just pretend. Look, I'll stick my face right there in the middle, okay? If you don't want to use your webcam, you just want to record your audio, you can come over to the right on the webcam function, click on it, and simply check to no video. And then you'll just have your audio recording, no video included. I personally recommend this as an option because it's a lot less bandwidth to simply record your voice. It's less for you to have to do, and it's less for your students to have working in order to hear you. It takes a lot less internetical power, if you will, to listen to audio comments than it does to listen to audio comments with video attached, right? So for all those reasons, I'd say audio comments work really well here, no video needed. So then you can just get this blue button and start recording. You'll get a recording device, 3, 2, 1, countdown, and then you can just start talking. And as you're talking, the audio recorder is just gonna capture what you are saying. It's gonna hear that tenor in your voice. When you're done with that feedback, you know, on average, my feedback is somewhere between 1.5 minutes to 4 minutes per student. And again, I'm in an English class, right? Where we do a lot of tailored feedback per major assignment. So adjust that as it makes sense for you. But even a 30-second piece of feedback that says, wow, this is working really well. Here's a place to strengthen. I've attached some resources for you. I hope you have a great week, is powerful. Students do resonate with that, right? So we got about 46 seconds right here. I'm going to hit finish. I could title this, but frankly, it's embedded right in the student's feedback space, so I don't even title mine. I just hit the save button, and then I wait for it to go. And then it shows up over here on the right. So here's where I would have typed written comments, and then beneath that, I get this option for an audio comment, right, where that audio comment is embedded. And typically what I'll say is I've included audio comments for you here so that they can make sense of this player box that shows up over in their feedback. So again, the first option is to attach something. The second option is to record yourself. On this pop-out where you can record yourself, you could also choose to upload media. So if you're using a sound recorder that's built into your personal computer, your laptop, whatever, or you've recorded using like Screencast-O-Matic or some other screencast capture, you can select audio or video files that you have saved on your computer as the way in which you give feedback on this assignment. So you don't have to use the built-in recorder. You could upload if you want to. The last option is, let's say a student says, thanks for the option for audio feedback, professor, but I really prefer to have it typed, or if you personally prefer to give it typed, you can still break up with typing in order to give feedback. And as odd as it sounds, I actually think using this choice does make me as a professor feel more connected to my students when I'm giving feedback than simply to typey type, right? And this third choice looks like a speaker on the right. Get excited, it's speech to text, and it's pretty great. And so you get a pop-up window, you choose it, all you do is hit the red button, and as long as you remember, as I need to, that you have to speak a little slower and very clearly when you're giving feedback, you can sit in front of your computer and speak into your computer to speak your feedback, and Canvas's speech to text function will capture what you say and turn it into written feedback. Isn't that exciting? And because Canvas understands that your particular accent, your particular pacing, and its knowledge may not always equal that it said, it captures what you meant. You get to edit it before it posts. So once you're done speaking to text, you simply choose the black square on the right. When you choose that black square, whatever it just captured in speech to text is going to show up as in this drafting box, the same way if you were typing comments, you would be able to see them before you hit submit. So then you can look through and see, and I'm looking for it. Let's see if it did it this time. Oh, it got it. Okay, so today when I said Canvas, Canvas understood I said Canvas, but the other day it said Candace, like the name, and I would have had to come in and make an edit, right? But let's say that it's got the word feedback here, but I didn't really want feedback. Let's say I wanted the word forum. I can just go in and word by word, change that to make sure it's clear to what I meant to say. When I have it exactly where I want it, I can hit submit. And then ta-da, everything I just spoke shows up as a written comment. And I don't know why it works in terms of making me feel more connected, but it works. Maybe because I'm really present. When I'm giving those audio comments, I'm thinking about, gosh, this feels like what I would say to my student in class or say to my student during conferences if I'm talking about this assignment. And so it just makes me feel more connected to them. And I think that ultimately gives richer feedback. And so you can choose to use speech to text anytime you want as an alternative to typing your feedback. And then it just shows up for you. Should you make a comment and then look at it and be like, oh, shoot, that's not what I meant to say, or whatever that might be, you can always come back with an X out a comment. And Canvas will say, are you sure you want to delete it? And you can say, yep, and change your mind. Okay. Just know that once you grade an activity and you attach comments, Canvas is going to notify that student right away. And that student is going to see that they've got a new grade and that they've got new feedback. So if you come in 2 days later and you say, oh, shoot, that's not quite the feedback I wanted to give, and you get rid of it, that student may or may not have already looked at it by then. Right? So all of these ways that I've showed you right here, adding a score, attaching something, typing comments, using the voice feature, the audio feature, or the audio and the video feature, and using the speech to text are all built into all types of assignments, and they all show up very easily for students to see that this is their feedback. Okay? So it creates a variety of ways that you can give feedback that are all centralized in one space. All of those written feedback options are available on all types of graded activities. So the moves that I just made, you could do with a discussion forum, you could do with a quiz, you could do with either a text box or a file upload. Okay. Let's say that you want to dive deeper and you have asked students to upload a file and you want to be able to actually go into that document that they've created, that digital document that they've made, and give line by line feedback. You can show them that line by line feedback in a very specific way by giving comments in the margins or doing some editing. And so I want to show you how to do that. In order to do that, there have to be a few conditions that are working. And so condition number one, you have to have created a particular type of graded activity in order to do this. The only type of graded activity where you can make comments in the margins or to actually annotate that student work is if a student has uploaded a file, right? You cannot give margin comments on their quiz response. You cannot give margin comments on a discussion forum. You cannot give margin comments on a text box. You can only give margin comments as a file upload. So first and foremost, you need to have created an assignment, right? A Dropbox for your students. That's condition number one. You had to build the type of assignment that will allow for this type of feedback. And that's a Dropbox. Okay. In order to build a Dropbox, if you're in your course, you come over to the left and you can get there one of two ways. You can either go to the assignments tab, because remember, Canvas says assignments are a particular type of graded activity. You can go to that assignments tab. You can build an assignment plus assignment. Let's title this assignment Essay 4 Dropbox. This is where you could include the prompt or any other information that you want to give them on this particular assignment. And then if you want students to make a move to submit to this assignment in a way that you can give those margin comments, the move that you need to make is under the submission type, right? So after you've put in your prompt and all the information you want them to have, you've listed the amount of points. If you have different groups for your assignments, you've taken care of that. You've listed whether you want it as percentage, complete, incomplete, points, etc. The next big box says submission type. And under here, if I want to be able to give margin comments, I need to say that I want that submission to happen online, and I need to choose file uploads. If I choose text entry, that means students get a text box. If I choose text entry and file uploads, that gives students a lot of ways to do this assignment, but I'm only going to be able to give margin comments on file uploads. So if I want those margin comments on my way to give feedback, I have to be really specific on how I design this assignment. So condition number 1, I design the assignment correctly, and that is it's an assignment, which means I'm building a Dropbox. I've chosen to have file uploads. I save it. Okay. So the first way I can build that is to go into assignments. An alternative way to build it is to simply come to my page where my modules are. And within a particular module, I can always say, yep, I'm going to want them to do a paper here. I can hit that plus on the right of the module, choose to add an assignment. And if I built that assignment on the assignment tab, it's going to be waiting for me down here. There's that Essay 4 Dropbox. Okay, so I can link to it and say, yep, I want this in this module. Or if I haven't built it yet, I can build my assignment right here from the modules tab. Either way, whatever makes most sense for you. I typically tend to just build them right on my modules page, but some folks prefer to go and build them first and then link them. It's just a personal preference. But either way, I've got to have that Dropbox. Okay. Whatever I might name it, that's condition 1. I have to make the type of assignment that will allow students to make an upload. Okay. Condition number 2, my students need to upload a file that's in a format that I can give feedback on. So the formats that give feedback most easily, Microsoft Doc formats, RTFs, and PDFs, right? Canvas says that you can give feedback on a JPEG, on an image, right? It says that you can do that. It says that you can give feedback in a couple other types of formats. I know for sure it does not work on pages. So if your students have a Mac, you have to remind them to convert that file to a doc, to an RTF or a PDF before they upload, or you're not even gonna be able to see it typically, let alone give feedback on it. So condition number 1, you have to build an assignment and students have to upload a file. Condition number 2, the type of file that they upload has to be doc, RTF, PDF. Now, if you're like, wow, that's really hard to get all that correct. Actually, no, it's pretty simple. I mean, if you walk students through it one time and say, this is where you're going to upload a file, you put some directions in, you remind them not to save it as a Pages document if they have a Mac, they get it. I mean, my students do it every semester. Right? This is one of the primary ways in which I give feedback in an English class, because it makes so much sense to be able to go in and look closely at that paper. So let's go in and look closely at a paper. So I'm going to come to, again, my gradebook. And again, keep in mind that when I'm in my gradebook, what I want is to look for something that needs to be graded that has an icon. And in this case, I want to show you something that is an uploaded file. So we're going to come to this Unit 6 essay, Ice Cream and You. Click on it. And again, in order to give feedback, first step, I click on the icon. Shows me I have not yet graded it, but something has been submitted. I click to the right on the arrow. It opens up the panel on the right. I'm almost down the hallway, and then I click on the hallway that says speed grader, and ta-da, look, I'm in. I'm into my hallway. I've also already done some commenting on this. So you can see some of the work that I've already done. Clearly, this is an example I'm using to demo. I don't draw giant smiley faces typically on my students' work. So let's eliminate those. But you'll see me draw them again in a moment to demo for you. So if the two conditions have been met, I created a Dropbox that can accept files, and my student uploaded a file. Hooray! Look at how many more additional feedback tools I have. I still have all the ones that I showed you before. I can put in the score, I can put in comments, I can add audio or video comments, I can do speech to text, but now I have all of these other choices across the top. So in my experience, Chrome as a browser can be a little bit touchy with these feedback tools. Firefox works really smoothly. I don't know enough about some of the other browsers to know whether they're really compatible or not, but Firefox is really reliable. So here's my student's paper, right? This is a fake student, actually just me. Okay, so you're not seeing any student information here. Okay, and so so here's my fake, but for our purposes, real student paper in my cooking show here. And then these are all choices that I have where I can give feedback. So the first, which is really simple and works well in PDFs, because sometimes I can't go in and do line by line commenting on PDFs. Why? I'm not quite sure. But on all types of documents, I get this hot air balloon that's just like a point and drop for comments. And I can change the color of that hot air balloon, any one of these colors, right? I can use multiple colors, recognizing that some students can't see color. And so I typically try and just use dark blue or black. The English teacher in me says I never use red because students are really terrified of that color. And even if I put in my comment, this is the best thing I've ever read in my life, if I make that comment in red, their first reaction is to assume that they've done something wrong. And so I just don't want to carry on that legacy of having them think that red comments equal they've done something wrong. So I just don't use red. I use blue or black. One of those works just fine. So I choose my little hot air balloon, and then I find a spot in the paper that I want to say something about, and then I just drop my hot air balloon with my mouse, and it gives me a place where I can leave a comment, and it gives me a comment box. And then if I change my mind, I can always come back into that comment box, choose the trash bin on the right, and eliminate it. Keeping in mind that if I make that choice days after I first completed it, my student may have still read that comment. Okay. So the first choice is this hot air balloon where I can drop a pin and make a comment. The second choice is a highlight function. Again, I have a number of different highlight colors I can use. And then I just use my mouse to hover over the text. And it's going to give me a highlight line. And then it opens up this black box on the right where I can say something about the particular section of text that I highlighted. I use this all the time. I find this really helpful if I want to highlight part of a passage, or let's say that like a student had an idea going up here at the top, and then they kind of wandered into talking about something else and they came back to the original idea. I can make a highlight up there, and I can make a highlight down here. Get my highlight going again here. Oh, it's being a bit particular with me. Well, imagine that that second highlight has come through right here. I'm in Chrome at the moment, so I wonder if it's being cranky. But imagine that I've got a highlight here and a highlight here. I could leave feedback that says these two pieces make really good sense together, but you kind of wandered off into some other direction in the middle. Could you combine these? Right? And it helps students to see what you see, but your finger isn't right there to point to them in a face-to-face environment. The wording choice, which looks like a giant letter T, again, variety of colors I can do that in. 3 different sizes in this bar across the top that I can do this in, and I can type, and let's say that they put the word offensive, but actually they meant offended. I can put that word in to say like, wait, oh, do you mean this? Which I don't use that as much personally as an English teacher, but I can imagine a ton of functionality for this in a course where learning specific terms is really important, right? Where I could come through and make those line by line notes to them if I needed to. The strike through is going to give me color of a line that can go right through a word. So if they've used the wrong word or something's in the wrong place, I can, choose this strike through, hover over the word to get that, hover over and then click on that word. And then I can make a note to myself here. I have a paintbrush that allows me to just open draw. This is what allowed me to make those smiley faces. I can circle a piece of text. I can underline something. I can make a smiley face in the margin. In all of these cases, my line can be fine, medium, or super thick. And again, I have different color choices that I can make. And the last choice boxes something for me. So I could, let's say it's these two, it looks like a box up here in the tools. Let's say it's these two lines. I can come in and create a box, and then I get a note. And maybe I say like, this idea is really strong, right? Something like that. So I tend to do this with the highlight function, but there's no reason why I have to. I could use this box function to do that too, and box something out. And then again, I can change my colors with that. So all of these tools are available and work really well for students to be able to go through and see. So in theory, it works beautifully. It does require those first conditions. The last condition that has to be met in order for this to function well is that you help your students to know how to see all of this feedback that you have put into a draft. So I'm going to walk you through how to do that in just one moment. So we just got done doing a bunch of annotating on as feedback, and I want to show you the moves that your students need to make in order to see that. If you recall earlier when we were giving those, comments, those overall comments or audio comments or speech to text, I said that's really easy. When students log in, they're going to get this note that something's graded, and they're going to immediately see that feedback that you've given, right? That is not true for comments in the margins. Any of that editing stuff we just did where you're, dropping a note or you're highlighting, they don't immediately see that. They actually have to make some choices in order to see that. And I would suggest that it's worth your time to walk them through how to do that. So first I'm going to show you what they see, and then I'm going to give you a resource for how you can communicate this move to your students so that if you go through and do that work of annotating something that they've uploaded, they know how to see it. Otherwise, it's work that you just did to try and help them that they might never access. Right? So if you recall, I told you I was going to show you how you could see your class from a student's perspective. So in order to do that, I actually need to go back to kind of my home space, my home room of my Canvas. So right now I'm still in the grade book. I'm in a hallway. I need to back out to that central foyer, if you will. So I do that by going to the overall name of my course. And then I'm at my home page. So over here on the right, I'm going to see a number of different choices about my course. And the last one is this option for student view, and it's got a set of glasses on it. So if I click on that, I'll know that I've entered into student view because the perimeter of my course turns purple. So once I'm in student view, I am now experiencing this class, your class, as a student would. Which means if you haven't published something yet, you can't get into it in student view. If you haven't graded something yet, your student's not going to see a grade for that in student view. As much as possible, it is a replication of what your students would experience in your class, which is a great way for you to troubleshoot the student experience for your class before they go through it, right? So let's imagine that I am now my own student, and I just got this note that my essay 6 on ice cream has been graded. Okay, so I could come in as a student to my grades page, and then I'm going to see everything that's been graded by my professor, and I'm going to see what I've earned, right? Okay, So I'm going to see if I'm missing something. In other words, I haven't done that assignment. I'm going to see if I've done something, but my instructor hasn't graded it yet. I'm going to see things that I've done and that I've gotten a grade for. And then as a student, I'll know the more stuff that's there. So if I completed this discussion forum and my instructor gave me feedback, I'm going to see this like clipboard over here on the right. And that's going to show me the rubric. I can see this chat function that shows me all of those comments that my instructor made. But let's go down to this Unit 6 essay on ice cream. So if I come here as a student, if I make the same move I do all the time and I click on this chat box, I'm going to see any conversation I had with my professor about it. And then I'm going to see all the comments that my professor has made. But notice, I do not see all of those margin comments. In fact, I don't even know they exist. As a student, if I want to see them, I actually have to click on the assignment. This is not intuitive, right? It's a limitation of Canvas. I'm drawn to these icons over here, but nothing about these icons tells me that there's annotated feedback on that essay. I have to click into that essay as a student. And even when I click into the essay, what I see at first is over here, I see all the same stuff I saw on that front page, all those comments. If there's any media comments that have been attached, I see them over here, right? But as a student, I have to click on view feedback in order to see it. So it's not intuitive for a student. They've got to make multiple clicks. Once they do that, then they can come in and they can see all of this feedback and they can choose to enter full screen. Now they can see everything that's been written. They can see all the highlights. They can see all the comments, but they had to go make some moves in order to do that. And then they can obviously X back out of that, get back into where they get their grade. I believe if they click on the submission itself, it just opens the submission. I don't think it has the comments on it. Nope, that just shows what they submitted. So in order to do the feedback, they have to go to this view feedback spot on the right. And if you're like, gosh, how the heck am I going to show that to a student, right? I have been where you are. Over multiple semesters of teaching online, I've actually just built a screencast video where I walk them through this move and direct them to this view feedback spot. But you don't have to do that in order to help students to see this really valuable feedback. Instead, there's another option that you can do. Let me show you how you get there. First, we're going to leave student view. You'll know that you've left student view when the purple goes away and now you're back to being the instructor. Okay. So if you go back to your home, you've got all these navigation tabs over here, right? This is how we navigate to our gradebook, etc. But if you bump out one more spot to the left, you'll see where you can connect with all your courses or your dashboard or your calendar or your email. And then you're going to see this circle with a question mark that says help. If you click on that, it's going to open up this left-hand bar and you get this choice that says search the Canvas guides. And if you click on that, it's going to open you up to this space produced by Canvas that answers any and all questions you can ever think of, right? So once you're in here, if you come over to this magnifying glass search on the right, and you put in student view annotated feedback or something of that nature, I want the one that's made by Canvas. So let's see if this is it. My personal preference when I look at this is I'm looking for ones that say it's been created by the Canvas doc team, right? I want something that's official. So let's try this one. How do I view annotation feedback comments from my instructor directly in my assignment submission? So this is the question, right? Canvas has written a how-to guide for this that walks students step by step. They go to their grades, they choose their paper, they choose that view feedback, and it walks them through images. You as a professor can link to this page, right? Copy the link and put it in Canvas for them. You can also, I believe down here at the bottom, I thought you could also, download this, but maybe that is just in my mind. But I thought there was a place where you could also download this and then you could upload it as an attachment for them. So you can give that a look and see if there's a way to download it as well, but you can certainly link it. And so that would be my suggestion to you. If you plan to use the annotated feedback, partner that with an easy to access guide that says, here's how you see your feedback, students, right? You could even make a very small low points assignment that says, you know, practice going to see your annotated feedback. Let's do it on this assignment. Make sure you can do it. It's a really valuable feedback tool, but it does take some specific conditions and then making sure you can help your students to see it. So overall, to sum up, we talked about how you can create written feedback in a number of different ways, and that you can attach that to a number of different graded activities. You can make overall comments following the grade on all types of graded activities. You can make comments in the margins on assignments where students have to do an online file upload, and it works best in doc formats, RTFs, and PDFs. You can also create instant feedback after a question is completed if you want to within quizzes. There are also several ways that you can give audio or video feedback. Audio comments can be created in Canvas and attached to all types of graded activities. There's an internal tool to make those audio comments, but there's also the option to upload if you want to make them on your desktop or through some other external tool. Video comments can be created in Canvas, again, right on the video recorder, or you can have an upload option. And there's also the opportunity for speech to text comments on all types of graded activities. Should you want to use these feedback tools and create rubrics, I would consider that like a level up, right? That requires you to build a rubric in order to be able to do it. But once you build them, you have them and they're really handy. So digital rubrics are a nice tool to use for both assignments and discussion forums if you want to. It's a way for you to offer feedback and scoring. You can have that rubric auto score when you go through and click the different categories. It'll update that grade. You can write your own score in if you want. You can also write in comments. And again, once you build rubrics, you can use them for several different types of assignments or situations. Rubrics can be imported from one class to another. They take a little practice, but once you have them where you want them, they're really easy to use. And so that's another session where we're looking specifically on how to develop those rubrics, but please know that that's another opportunity that you could practice with and think about putting into your courses if it fits your needs and fits your students' needs. Again, thanks so much for tuning in for this wayfinding series on creating feedback. I hope that helps you to continue to connect with your students and help them to feel supported in their learning while you're feeling supported in yours. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.